I was born in Jackson, Mississippi in 1955. Well, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Anyway, but I didn't spend a lot of time in Jackson. Um, my stepdad was in the Air Force. We lived in Maine, in Newfoundland, in Vicksburg, a lot of different places. I ended up coming back to Jackson to go to junior high and high school. And then I got into the Air Force myself and left again. I was in Germany for 3 of the 4 years I was in the Air Force. Came back to Jackson, met some friends who lived in Natchez, and I've been down here ever since. My, my father and my mother were divorced when I was about a year and a half old. He's got a family in Texas. I was raised by my stepfather, Bob Tucker, and my mom, Carlene. Uh, Bob was a great guy. God rest his soul. Um, he came from Maine, and we lived up there because of that. When he was in the Air Force, as I said, we lived in Newfoundland for a while. We got to see a little bit of world because of him. And I'll always be grateful to him for that. Oh, we didn't face a lot of hardships and tragedies. Uh, we never had a whole lot of money, but we weren't dirt poor. We got along. Um, Trying to think of, really, we were all pretty happy most of our lives. Later on in life, as an adult, I lost my mom and then my dad. Um, she had a major stroke, and she lived through it for quite a while, but it eventually took her. And uh, my dad died of complications from prostate cancer. Those were sad times. I lost my brother a few years ago uh, to a stroke. And that was one of the biggest tragedies of our family, to lose him at such a young age. I'm the oldest, so to lose a younger brother before his time was pretty bad. I have two families. I grew up with Lisa, my sister, Scott, who I talked about died of a stroke several years ago, and my brother Tim, who's even taller than I am, if you can believe that. Um, we were always a close-knit family, and we had a lot of fun times together. Tim is a magnificent carpenter and engineer, real smart guy. I don't know what happened to me. And then on the other side, I've got my father and his wife, with my brother Turk, my sister Becky, and my sister Debbie. I didn't even get to know them at all until I was in high school, about to leave for the Air Force, and I finally got a chance to meet them. It was pretty wonderful. I had 3 sets of grandparents. At times, we lived with my mother's mother, Hannah, Mamaw, and she was a go-getter. She always drove what we would call today classic cars. Um, she had like about a 1958 Ford Fairlane, like the cops used to drive, stuff like that. She was just always a great person. I never knew her husband, my grandfather, because he died before I was born. My father's parents, I knew his mother, my grandmother Gracie, for a little while, but she died, and her husband, my grandfather, had died when I was about a year old. Now, my stepfather's parents, I knew a lot better. Bea and Howard, they lived up in Maine, and when we lived in Maine, we lived close to them. She was the kind of person that got up at 4:30 every morning and baked the bread and got the laundry done and all of that. Howard was always the laid back type. Take a drink every once in a while. He was a great guy, though. I loved them all. I just wish I'd have gotten the chance to know him a little better. School was weird because it seemed like every 2 years, I don't think I spent more than 2 years in any one school. Because we were moving, changing station, or for whatever reason, even when I moved to Jackson, I was in junior high for 1 year. It was in the early 60s and late 60s, early 70s, when desegregation was going on. So I got sent to one high school for a year, and then I got sent to another high school for 2 years. Graduated from Wingfield in Jackson. It was always getting to know new people. You know, you're moving to a new school, you got to make new friends, and that was always a challenge. It's probably the reason why I don't have any trouble talking to anybody. Oh, I don't have any strengths. Public speaking. I can stand in front of a crowd. I love drama, theater of all different kinds. I've been in musical theater and regular theater, and of course, you may have seen me on Angels on the Bluff. I played multiple characters there. Historical characters they're fantastic to play. I've gotten to do things with the Natchez Festival of Music. I was Colonel Pickering in My Fair Lady, and Captain Andy in Showboat. Some other rich parts that they'd give me. It was always a lot of fun. That's my strength, being able to do something like that, or to help somebody else do it. I guess that's it. I don't know if I've got any serious challenges. I'm just one of those people that is easy to get along with for the most part. So I guess I've had some challenges. Dealing with two separate families at times, I guess that's been a challenge. Gee whiz. You're going to have to cut the heck out of this one, because I'm not sure if I've had any serious challenges before. You've hit on an important part there. I grew up Protestant, baptized Presbyterian. In high school in the 60s and 70s, you just went all over the place. I went to Baptist churches and Methodist churches and Pentecostal churches and Presbyterian churches and all kinds of things. You'd visit other people's churches and stuff like that. I think, well, when I got into the Air Force, it was the same way. You're on an air base and everything's compact, and you can go to one church and go to the church next door and all of that. That's where I first got exposed to Catholicism. But it wasn't until 1997. I married a Catholic woman, Donna Kaiser, in 1981. But it wasn't until 1997 that I decided to convert to Catholicism, because I walked into the church and the sacred silence was immense, powerful. So I converted then. We weren't really good Catholics for a while, but eventually it got to be serious with us. Now I'm actually in formation to become a permanent deacon in the Catholic Church, which means I'll be ordained, that I have to take classes, theology and philosophy and homiletics and all kinds of wonderful things. It's a 4-year journey, and as of now, I've got about a year left, and God willing, I'll be ordained a deacon in the Catholic Church. Oh, I've got a story about my spouse. I was in the restaurant business for a long time, and I started out seriously in the restaurant business at a place called Cock of the Walk when it was under the hill. 1978, 79. These two girls walked in. I was the bartender, and these two girls walked into the bar and sat down and had drinks. Well, the bar at Cock of the Walk was a short bar, but it was made of an old cypress. And so it was this wonderful wood with the little nail holes in it and all. We were joking around, as I did with most of the customers, and one of the girls began to put matchsticks into the little nail holes and light them, making the joke that, hey, look, you've got a birthday bar. So I'm really quickly trying to get these matches out because it's antique cypress, lady. How dare you? Well, that was Donna. We ended up going out that night, fell in fast and furious. It was a whirlwind courtship. Just a few months later, on February 14th, I asked her to marry me. Gave her a box of candy with a ring inside it. And in May, we were married, 1981. And we've been married now for 40 years. In May, it'll be 40 years. We have one daughter, Lauren, and she's blessed us with two beautiful grandchildren, Zoe and Tucker. My wife is fairly energetic like me. She doesn't go in for the theater stuff. She'd rather work in the background. But we come together very, very well. We love to travel. We've had our best times have been when we were traveling, when we went to Italy, when we traveled around the United States together. We went to Ireland, and you know, we're so easygoing, both of us, that we just had a great time the whole time we were together. And it's been beautiful. I've been really blessed. That's easy. Samuel Clemens. Everybody knows him as Mark Twain. He's kind of my hero. I've read a lot of his stuff, of course, and I've read a lot of his autobiography as well as his other biographies. If I got to meet him, what we would be doing is strolling around the grounds, smoking cigars, and having good whiskey. And me begging him to tell me more stories. Nothing scares me. Those little tiny spiders, you know, those little tiny ones? I mean, not the really big hairy ones, the little tiny, no, that's... I don't have a whole lot of fear. I have a respect for snakes, you know, but I just don't have a whole lot of fear. I wake up in the morning and feed my dogs and wash my face. And as part of my deacon formation, I'm obligated to say prayers in the morning and in the evening. So that very first thing, I get a chance to sit in my little studio with a window looking out over the east as the sun rises and say prayers there. And it's this beautiful, beautiful thing that happens. And there are so many times that I've looked at that and just said, oh my. My grandchildren, my children and my grandchildren, they make me say wow practically every day. I mentioned that you know, one of my gifts is being able to speak publicly. I don't have a lot of trouble having a lot of people in front of me while I speak to them. And I've done that in theater. I've done it with Angels on the Bluff. I've done programs for kids, especially eighth graders. There were a couple of programs where you talk them into staying into school, stuff like that. So it doesn't matter who the audience is, older people, younger people, whatever. I just have that talent. I, I of course read up on it, did some research on it through the years, and tried to pick up different tips to help you to speak better, things like that. But a lot of it has just been having the experience to get up and do it, and figuring out what I did wrong and then moving on from there. Besides acting, I love to direct because I can use those experiences to mirror those actors that are on the stage. I love doing that. I think I should have been a teacher, but I went a different area. Have faith. Faith has become so important to me now. And I watch people who don't have that faith and how their lives so often turn miserable. We always have our problems. The family problems, the house problems, how are we going to do the financial problems, how are we going to do this or that? But faith has always gotten me through. And it was a tough lesson to learn. I'm hoping that I can pass that on to my children, to my child, and to my grandchildren. That no matter what happens, God's got you. I hope I can pass that on. I'd have been rich. No, that's terrible because so many times, you read about people who win the lottery and then they end up in the gutter. So I'm afraid of asking for something like that, to tell you the truth. I think I would have maybe changed my education. There are things that I really would like to have learned or tried when I was younger. In high school, we had a rock band, and it really got pretty good. I mean, we really got pretty good. And there are times when I wonder, golly, maybe I should have pursued that instead of getting into the Air Force like I did right out of high school. Maybe I should have pursued that a little bit harder and seen what it was like. But a lot of that's curiosity, and that would have meant that I would have ended up giving up part of the life that I have now, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. I hope people always wonder if I was just a little bit insane. I'm hoping they do think that, as a matter of fact. Legacy. I hope that as a deacon, I can help people with that faith thing that I was talking about, especially my family. I hope that I can do good. I hope that the things that I've done in my life, that there's enough good in them that God will smile at me. Really, that's about it. This has all been a farce. I was actually born in 1819. That's right, I'm 200 and 2 years old now. I don't. It's been a wonderful journey so far. I hope there's a lot of it left. I hope I have plenty of times with my daughter and my grandchildren and my pretty great son-in-law and my wife, of course. I hope I get to travel some more and that people say, man, that guy really had a great life. If I can do that, I guess I've done my job.